No, sit. Hey,
no.
Piers, what's up?
How are you?
Good morning.
How you doing?
Welcome to the Opie and Anthony Show.
Take a seat. Contrary to popular belief, we are on the air.
And Kevin Smith.
People don't know this.
Kevin Smith to your left.
Hi, sir. How are you? Hey.
He was supposed to do your show tonight.
Yeah, we moved it to Los Angeles or something.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
And Jim Norton.
Yeah.
Hi. How are you?
Nice to see you. Piers Morgan.
Anthony, Opie, Sam, who cares? But he's just doing
How's it been, man, taking over?
It's been great. It's when you take over a gig like the Larry King Show, it's a pretty amazing honour, a challenge. I mean, I've done about 15 shows. I feel absolutely exhausted.
Sure.
And someone said to me, Larry did 7,000. Get over yourself. It's like it's a very relentless pace, but it's been great fun. I mean, Larry's been so nice to me about it all, and
we miss Larry just because he was kind of messing up at the end there.
No,
I know you're not going to say anything, Piers. I understand.
No, I'm not.
So let us say it.
He's one of my heroes.
It was fantastic TV that last year. Got a bunch of things wrong, man.
Really was fun to watch.
And when we heard he was retiring, we were a little bummed. Well, we're happy for you, though.
Thank you.
Because it made for great morning radio, some of those clips.
Well, I'll try and keep you filled with mistakes, don't worry.
Are you going to do all pre-tapes or any political stuff like he did day of?
No, I mean, last week, every day was live.
Oh, it was, okay.
On Egypt. And then before that, we had a few pre-tapes, a few live shows. But I mean, I'm going to mix it all up because, I like to keep it unpredictable. Some will be pre-taped, some will be... I like it when you pre-tape, let's say Oprah Winfrey. We got it in the tape for about a week. You can then start leaking stuff out everywhere, and everyone's, we're a huge audience because we already promote it. Right. So I'm not really sold on it has to be live for the sake of it. Sometimes live's good, but other times it's good.
And I'm paying attention, and I am watching. Oprah screwed you, too. She had that half-sister thing in her back pocket.
I know.
She doesn't give it to you on CNN.
No, wait, it gets worse. I did the two interviews I did through the December into January were Elton John, who forgot to tell me he was about to have a baby. Didn't even tell me he was pregnant. And then I interviewed Oprah Winfrey, and so I went back on her show last week, and I went, can I ask you one more question? And she went, yeah. I said, I know it's a bit late because our interview's aired, but do you have any half-sisters called Patricia that I should know about? You just forgot to tell me about Oprah?
That would have been a great first week for you if she gave you that news on your show.
You know what? She got huge ratings for us anyway, so it was a great week. But it's I didn't blame her. If I had my own network, I'd hold something like that back for it as well.
People are saying you were responsible for the whole Gervais controversy at the Golden Globes.
That I was to blame?
That you actually leaked out that there was a problem between the production staff and him him being mean-spirited, and that nobody really did care backstage, that it was you just fibbing. No.
I never said it. B, it's completely untrue. But C, had I thought of it, I definitely would have done it. Yeah. So.
Well, you got credit for it anyway, because that's what I read in a few things that.
No, my view is the more mischief, the better. I subscribe to Oscar Wilde's great saying: if there's one thing worse than being talked about, it is not being talked about. So, if people want to believe that kind of stuff, game on.
Yeah.
Do you think the media has gotten, because you were at the Mail and then there was pictures published that weren't, they turned out to be hoaxes, which
Daily Mirror,
right?
England,
I'm sorry, the Mirror.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gotten to a point where it's so competitive? There's so many. It's kind of gotten a bit tabloid, where everybody's just rushing to get it first, and it's not just. I mean, it's every outlet.
The problem now is that news is, in the old days, you'd buy a newspaper to find out what had gone on. Now, as everyone's got iPads and computers and stuff. We all know what's happening in real time. I mean, I'm on Twitter feed with all these news organisations. That's all you need on your phone. If you want to know what's happening, dum 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 dum, and it streams in. So the old reason for newspapers has disappeared, and it makes news unbelievably fast now. And it's dangerous. You're absolutely right to say that, because apart from anything else, technology is now so sophisticated, you can hoax anybody if you want to. With information, with pictures, with video. Everyone knows you can. You guys know better than most. You're in a studio where you can do whatever you like in here. So it's become much harder for news organisations, generally. A, to compete, because news is just flashing around in real time. And B, because there's a lot of people out there that want to con you. It's hard.
Didn't they used to lose, the news divisions always lost money years ago, and it seems like that... They accepting that and going, well, news division's going to lose money has changed, and it became this...
Because it was in the public
we
interest.
have to get ratings.
Kind of
well, I think, I have two views about this. I mean, one is that I think there was a bit of pomposity from news divisions in the past as well. It's like, we are serious news, and the only news that matters to people is serious news. I don't agree with that. I don't think the only news that we all want to wake up to every day has to be involving famine, death, disaster, and war. I just don't. And I think that there's a healthy balance to be struck. News is something that somewhere... It's a great quote that came out from, I think it was Lord Beaverbrook in England, who owned a lot of newspapers. News is something that someone somewhere doesn't want published. That's pretty much the yardstick. And, a newspaper at its best, or any kind of news show, ought to always have that in mind. Whatever it is something that somebody somewhere is going to be a little bit annoyed about. And then it's news, because then it's something out there that may have been suppressed otherwise.
I think it affects or at least it has affected the credibility of newsmen and newswomen, because in the old days you had Walter Cronkite, and he was actually out there not only broadcasting the news but collecting the news. He was on site, and then he'd come back and write his stuff.
Let me defend my news people, because last week I think you saw American news anchors at their absolute best. You had Anderson Cooper, Brian Williams, Katie Couric, Christian Amanpour, all these legendary names, all in the field in Egypt, getting physically attacked. Most of them, Anderson was attacked 3 times, and not just quietly tapped on the shoulder. He was punched in the head 10 times. His car was smashed in. These very, very dangerous environment. I don't know how they do it. I couldn't do that. My brother's a British Army colonel, done just on a 7-month tour of Afghanistan. He can do it, but I can't do that kind of thing. And they are incredibly brave people, and so they still do that. And there's no more credible people to me than people like Anderson or Brian or Katie. So I don't think we've lost that. The thing that's changed, which people like Walter Cronkite never had to put up with, is the internet. And the internet is now spewing out information at such a speed, and it's very hard to disseminate real, proper, accurate news placed by good, responsible news organizations like CNN, for example, and the blogosphere, which is just spilling out a load of crap morning, noon, and night.
I think you get, for every 1 part news, you get 10 parts speculation, because that seems to be what a lot of the news channels are doing. And because of the internet, people want an answer immediately.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Well, people also just have to fill space immediately. So you have people writing without even thinking about what they're writing. We were just up at Sundance 2 weeks ago. I went up, and in the midst of, it was a rather large, showy thing, I essentially said, hey, I'm going to keep my own movie, not spend any money to release it, try to release it without spending any marketing. That's it. I saw so many fucking pieces where, like, even in Entertainment Weekly, there was a dude that was just like, if Smith does this, there's a good chance he'll become part of the evil empire he hates so much. And I'm like, you didn't even think about what I fucking said. Like, how is me taking my movie out by myself related whatsoever to fucking some corporation or evil empire? Like,
fuck you, evil empire.
They don't think, they just write, and they're just like, well, Kevin likes Star Wars. People know Star Wars, and let's compare him to fucking Darth Vader somehow, even if it doesn't make sense, because next week it won't matter.
Right.
So that's kind of frustrating, man. You're right. There is a lot of, like, there's 1 part news, like 10 part fucking opinion.
Yeah, but also remember, people like us now, though, have options like Twitter and stuff.
Yeah,
and
we can go out there and spread our own
And you
truth.
can get out there. Someone spread some lie about you. You can go straight on Twitter and say, somebody said this, here's the truth. So actually you can control your own message much better than you used to be able to.
Yeah, but the truth's never nearly as entertaining, though, as the lie they put out.
That's true.
Yeah,
you used to be a slave to message boards that were completely run and maintained by other people who, whatever interest was theirs, that's what you had to deal with.
And by the way, if you ever saw these loonies, right, they'd be in some tiny dungeon, in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, that's not
and they'll be on their
That's
internet
not
going,
fair. Don't you fist
and they'll be
pump.
going,
Motherfuckers don't. That's an old stereotype, man. I've seen a lot of these cats. They can get pussy. They can fucking, they can be charming. They're not like dudes dwelling or chicks dwelling in basements anymore.
I guess they could be if they wanted to.
Exactly. If they lost 600 pounds and left their house. But they do. It's amazing what personal information. Like, I had a relationship with Brooklyn Decker, and it's amazing. It's like the way that was. It was kind of cartooned and parodied.
well, first of all, congratulations.
I'm just trying to start a little buzz about myself.
I was furious when all the rumors about me and Scarlett Johansson hit the airwaves.
Yes.
It'd be wrong of me to try and deny that. I think it's not the kind of thing I talk about. But you see how it happens.
Yeah.
Now, immediately people listening to this, they get on Twitter and say, "Piers and Scarlett Johansson, really?" And before we know it, I'll be denying it properly tomorrow.
Right.
And then you'll be like the man.
I like clearing up rumors that nobody has ever started. Like, I did not fuck her. Nobody thought you did.
Yeah, exactly.
No one questioned it, ass. So now, how did you get the gig? I mean, Larry King, obviously.
Well, a large amount of money had to change hands.
That's handy.
From me to them. No, it was. Look, I mean, Larry had been there 25 years. I think he was looking to sort of semi-retire. Done, as I say, 7,000 shows in 25 years, an incredible career, and the ratings ratings, as everybody knows, in prime time on CNN were not good, and I think they were looking for a change. And I do a big interview show back in Britain, which I've done for a few years. It's a big success, and they got the tapes into those interviews, and they realised that I'm pretty comfortable interviewing politicians and celebrities and all that kind of thing. And so we had a few more meetings, and to my astonishment, I first talked to CNN about doing 1 or 2 specials with him. Next thing I know, I'm being offered the Larry King slot, which was an incredible thrill.
Well, I have a question for you about interviewing. When you go into an interview, what is your mindset like? Because there really is an art to getting information out of people.
Well, I was saying my brother, the army brother, has a saying, the 7 Ps, which is prior planning and preparation prevent piss poor performance. So unlike Larry, who's great genius, and he really was a genius, was better walk in without much preparation. He didn't like to prepare too much and just have a conversation with people. Because he was radio trained, actually. You guys could do the same. You wouldn't need to prepare much. You could just, because you're such good talkers, you could just talk to people.
Babbling.
And you could ask them 3 or 4 questions, and before you know it, you know who they are and what they do. And that was Larry's great gift, was to have the art of a conversation. I'm much more journalistic because of my background as a newspaper editor. So I like to, when I interview you, I'll know more about you than A, you'd like me to, and B, than you
That's
probably know.
That's impossible. I'm so fucking candid, Piers. There's nothing out there that I'm like, how could you know that? I'll be telling you shit there.
Yeah,
That's good.
He lets it all out.
He'll be like, well, let's pull some of these pictures up. It's like, fuck! He did find something.
That's Photoshop.
Damn it.
But what do you think when you're about to ask a question? Because sometimes we want to get information, but it's like, you do think like, oh, I want the person to like me. And it's embarrassing to admit that feeling that at times you have, like you don't want to ask the question because you don't want them to get pissed off. What is your thought process when you're going to ask something, you're going to an area that you know they don't want to go into?
Well, you can't go in with a sledgehammer, and you have to be sensitive to the fact that they may be, touchy about this, as we would say back home, sort of a little bit edgy. I think you have to tread cautiously. I always try and treat people with respect, but I try and be very direct. I mean, I think the thing that I do differently to Larry is maybe I might look someone straight in the eye when it's a difficult moment and just ask them straight. And often it gets the best answer. Often the people, in the back of their minds, they think, I don't want to go there. But actually, when they're actually confronted with it as a bold question, they often will start to talk about it.
But have you had publicists tell you, all right, this is off limits, don't mention
They do,
this
but I
subject?
always say, well, okay, well, we'll test the water, We'll test the water. And it's like, I had George Clooney on. And of course, always people were saying, don't get into private stuff. It's going to be about Sudan and stuff, which is a very interesting story. And I talked to him about all that. But I got his dad in to sit with me, and George is in LA on remote. And so rather than asking George about his private life, I asked the dad about George's private life. And that way, I'm not really contravening the agreement. I'm just circumnavigating
That's
it.
pretty smart.
Yeah.
That's pretty smart.
I said, you've been married for 50
That's like
years,
when they
Nick.
took Pantangeli's brother into court in The Godfather. What the hell are you doing? Yeah, he's here to support his brother.
But it's quite good. I said to George's dad, Nick, I said, you've been married a long time. Would you like to see George get remarried?
Man,
I would,
that's
yeah.
sneaky.
That's a great way to do it.
Sneaky.
But it's amazing how publicists will tell you, even a show on CNN or any other show, it's like that you can't ask certain questions.
Well, let me tell you, the thing is this. I think publicists dig a hole for themselves and for their clients when they put things off limits.
They're horrible.
It's like Oprah Winfrey walked through the door and she said, you can ask me absolutely anything you want. Let's get going. Howard Stern, exactly the same thing. And the favourite interviews I ever do with people, because I'm the same, you can ask me whatever you like. I don't have to answer. I don't have to tell you anything. But I think a journalist or an interviewer or anyone on radio, TV, newspapers, you should have the basic human right to ask somebody anything you want to ask them. And the moment you start putting limits on it, these people become less interesting. When I read a very controlled interview or see one on television where there's a big story about this person and they haven't talked about it, you know that the interviewer has been gagged or agreed to be gagged.
Absolutely.
It's boring. And the person looks more boring.
And it also, I think, when you give a chance to somebody to deny something or explain, like I would always want to be asked if something came up that was unpleasant, so they could hear my words on it instead of what was printed or what was said by other people. That's a great opportunity for the artists. But the publicists overprotect them.
Massively overprotected.
Getting back to Oprah, what did she say about the lesbian thing? I forgot.
Well, she'd already done all that with Barbara Walters, so and made it quite.
Did you go there a little bit?
Well, not really. Once someone has said in an interview 3
you don't
weeks
want to
before,
keep hammering.
A, I'm not a lesbian. B, I never have been, and I never even thought about being. She can't be more unequivocal. So, I would take her at face value. I mean, it's interesting. Her relationship with Gayle King is very interesting because she's the best friend she has in the world. But I genuinely think they are just incredibly close friends. I don't think they are lesbians. So, to me, it was a kind of, it's one of those stories stories the media would love to believe, and because Oprah had never really denied it, it sort of gets out there. But I honestly don't think. I think she tells the truth.
I'm actually doing Leno Friday, and Gayle King is the lead guest, and I'm just going to put my face in her dressing room and say, "Come on, is it true or bullshit?" Come on.
That's the way to get to the bottom.
Yeah, and I'm not going to leave until they pull me away. It's going to be a really ugly moment.
Oh, and they will.
Hey, Piers, a lot of people concerned you're not going to be America's Got Talent anymore.
I'm staying on America's Got Talent.
That's my show.
Yeah,
that's how I know you.
I love that show, and it's
you're a big fan of Prince Poppycock. I
love
saw.
Prince Poppycock. Well, yeah, he blew it, but he's.
I bet he did.
You were too rough on Chips Cooney, though. I have to say, Chips is a friend. I thought you were a little too hard on Chips Cooney.
No, he's another one that I didn't get Chips Cooney. He just wasn't funny.
He is though. It's a weird sarcastic attack on magic, which I really enjoy.
He was trying to be too ironic, you know. I mean, that's funny. Christina Aguilera repeating the lines of the Star Spangled Banner.
What happened?
She messed up the lyrics.
She repeated
but it wasn't like a lot of people were watching, so it's fine.
No, there was a lot of people watching.
She left out or the Ramparts we watched.
Yeah.
She put in the previous line.
She did it twice.
Yeah,
the same
she
line,
did it twice. Same line.
So what would that be? Everyone has to go back to the beginning and sing the whole song.
But we're making fun of her, and none of us could sing the song.
I think she went into What So Proudly We Hail. Twilight's last.
But they won't hold paper. They're afraid of looking bad, but it's like you look worse if you blow the song. Just hold a piece of paper or have a cheat sheet on your hand or a fucking teleprompter.
There's not a lot of
words.
Or practice 2 days before.
Dude, when you have of 500 million people watch you, all your practice is out the window. Because I know she knows that. Yeah, I couldn't remember my own act if I had that many people.
Fucking teleprompter. They can
what about
pop one right down there and by the monitors, and you could just look at it and then try.
Did people? What was the reaction? People like, "Ow!" What, they're booing?
Yeah.
Kill her!
Yeah.
You know,
did people react like
that?
Yeah, some people were booing.
You stole that mistake from Lady Gaga. You know, they just yelled all that shit. Hey, is there anybody you want to interview that you have had problems getting access to? I mean, obviously Obama or certain foreign heads of state. Who do you really want?
Well, the great thing about CNN is you tend to get whoever you want, pretty much, because it has obviously a domestic audience here, but the global audience you can potentially get, especially as unlike with Larry's show, they're airing mine in prime time in all the territories. So in Europe and Asia and everything else, you can get it at 8, 9 p.m. at night. So the potential audience to a guest is huge. I mean, 300-400 million people potentially. And if you've got a brand that you want to get outside of America, it's a fantastic platform. Plus, you know, CNN, I'm not going to chew people up. It's like, you know, it's an intelligent news network. You want to have intelligent conversation with people, and you want them to emerge out of it wanting to do your show again, whilst you having a good time with them and hopefully getting some good stuff out of them. So, you know, we don't really have a problem with most people we've asked have come on.
What's the best interview you've ever seen? Like the one where you want, God damn it, I wish I had done that.
Frost Nixon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, David Frost is one of my great heroes because if you ever watch the tapes of that, the real ones, never mind the movie, but they got about 30 hours on tape. But to finally get the confession that the whole of America wanted to hear, the whole world wanted to hear.
In the fourth and final meeting, right?
You know, the drama building, and again, David Frost was never too antagonistic. He just kept probing, incredibly well researched, building up to this moment when finally they got the confession out of Nixon. I'm sorry. Yeah, and it was an amazing moment, and that's what I call a brilliant interview.
Do you think that he would have gotten that, though, had it not been for that call the night before that really threw Nixon for a loop?
I think that was definitely part of it, but he wouldn't have got the call if David Frost, hadn't put $600,000 of his own money up in the early 70s. So you're talking several million now, because no network would put the money up to do it. And he put the money up, he got the result. I mean, that's an amazing thing to do. So that's why he's one of my heroes. I thought it was brilliant journalism.
I liked the movie too.
Yeah,
and to think that a movie about an interview would be good is just astounding. I was like, let me check that out, and it was compelling,
really compelling. Yeah,
it was amazing to me that. Nixon was so smart because he was to avoid certain unpleasantries. Didn't he just kind of filibuster? He just kept talking, so Frost couldn't jump in. It was like, what a brilliant, seasoned guy.
It's a very political thing to do. You know, when politicians don't want to answer something, they just keep talking about something else, or they answer a question they'd rather answer.
Are you used to interviewing politicians?
Yeah. I interviewed Tony Blair last week on Egypt, and I interviewed him about 10 times in Britain when I was on the Daily Mirror. So I used to interview people when I was editor of the paper. But also, I've done like 6-7 years of interviews in Britain.
He seems like a nice guy. Is he a nice guy?
You know what he is? Personally, he's an incredibly nice guy. He's very well-mannered, he's very polite, very charming, everything else. I mean, I think he made a catastrophic mistake as far as Britain's concerned, with the Iraq War, which has tarnished his reputation there. Oddly, it kind of enhanced his reputation in America, where standing shoulder to shoulder with the Americans after 9/11 gave him this amazing cachet here. But, in Britain, for a Labour left-wing a politician like Blair becomes the party leader, then prime minister, to take us into war on a pretext of weapons of mass destruction that never turned up. It killed his reputation in Britain.
Yeah, but isn't that the case with an alliance like the United States and England? I think he almost had to. It's like it's almost like an obligation between both countries that we really have to kind of back each other up. It's this ever since even before World War II. It's
I
just
think you're
become
right.
something.
I think every Briton's instinct, honestly, would be to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Americans, because we view you as genuinely great allies of ours from the Second World War in particular onwards. We've always been together on these things. I think the problem with Iraq was nobody was quite sure why we were fighting that war. No one was sure. And, it seemed to... My brother had to do 2 tours of Iraq, so I had a vested interest in this.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. I didn't think he ever had weapons of mass destruction. I thought the whole thing was a pack of lies. If you want a regime change, say so. Just come out and say we want to get rid of Saddam.
Yeah.
Then people can make their judgment about you based on whether that's a good idea or not. But, it's a dangerous thing. As we've seen with the Middle East right now, regime change is at its best when it's driven from the bottom by the people up.
Yeah.
That's how regimes ought to change.
You can't
when you start
force
going in,
people.
forcing your freedom and democracy on countries that have a totally different system, imagine how we'd feel. Imagine how America would feel if some other country woke up one day and said, we don't like the way you're being run. We're going to steam in with our military and we're going to enforce our beliefs on you. Trust me, how long's that going to last, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be very careful. When you're as powerful as America and Britain allied with America, you've got to be very careful how you utilize that power.
Question 2, what do you think of David Cameron? I think he's my new favorite person, and his remarks about
that was great.
Stop coddling Islamic extremists and stop handling them softly. It's like nobody talks that way, honestly.
And I don't understand why, because I don't like extremists of any kind. I just think the word extremism is the most dangerous word in our language right now, because it's extremists that cause the problems. It's not Muslims that cause problems. It's Islamic fundamentalists who want to kill people that cause problems. And this is where Cameron, our British Prime Minister, was right to say that. And it's where you have to just be focused on who the enemy really is. It's incredibly dangerous when I see that idiot pastor burning the Quran recently, trying to make some fatuous point. All that's doing is whipping people up into hating Muslims. That's never going to help anything.
But do you think, though, that the problem I have with the media in general, and I'm generalizing, is the way they always, and politicians do it too, let's not jump to conclusions like Major Hassan is yelling Allahu Akbar and murdering people, and it's an act of Islamic extremism by a nut, and it's amazing how there is this fear of saying it. And the media doesn't want to say it, and politicians don't want to say it, and it's amazing the way people just will not address what the real problem is.
There's a stigma put on you the second you even address extremist Islam. Then you're tiptoeing around it so much because you're so scared of getting called out and being a Islamophobe.
It is, but the way to do this is that when you talk about these things, you have to talk about extremists generally. There are extreme Christians in this country who do wacky stuff, who want to harm people.
But is it really as much?
It sounds like an awesome time to plug Red State.
Yeah. Yes. But I'm a Catholic. I was brought up a Catholic, and there are extreme Catholics that cause me extreme discomfort. And I think when you talk about extremism, talk about it and mention a few religions. Don't make it look like the only people you think are bad people in the world are Islamic fundamentalists.
But is the security at the airports and at malls and our train stations, are we really looking for Christian extremists and Catholic extremists, or are we looking for Islamic extremists, honestly?
I think the reality is, in terms of attacks on America, they've primarily come from Islamic fundamentalists on 9/11. That's what you're primarily dealing with. But don't tell me the only atrocities that happen in America are from fundamentalists.
No, you can look at Oklahoma City.
Right, we got McVeigh and Terry Nichols, sure.
But
look at Arizona recently.
Sure, another nut. Absolutely, another nut.
Well, you're always going to get nuts that are just crazy without really a cause or anything. There is a cause that is buried in the Quran, in the religion itself, that translated or interpreted by a lot, it's not a lot, relatively speaking, to all of Islam, but I think a disproportionate number of people interpret it very violently. They go into conflict very violently.
But this is where my problem comes with this, because you can interpret a lot of the Bible as ordering you to go and kill people if you want to.
And they do.
Right.
If you want to.
And
you know, there are Christians out there, as much as there are Islamic fundamentalists, who will interpret passages of the Bible, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and go and kill people.
But then again, are we looking for people with vest bombs that are Catholic?
Well, I don't know about you, but on every plane I get, they search a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know, and that seems to be a waste of time.
Well, it may be, but you know, you have to. If I was controlling the security of America right now, I'd be bloody careful that I make sure everyone is checked. Because the next attack may well, by the way, come not in the shape of a Islamic fundamentalist, but it might be them, you know, recruiting somebody who is
the family going
normal.
The family going to Disney, really?
Well, you know something,
like that to me is a waste.
Hey, they could
of
be
time.
Chechens, but they'd be Muslims.
You know something? Stranger things have happened, and they're not the only ones that want to kill Americans or kill Britain.
But stranger things have happened, yes. But I'm not talking about a blanket overall guarantee nothing's ever going to happen again. But you got to play your averages and put your resources.
You're in charge of Homeland Security in this country. Would you have the kind of restrictive security we have at airports now or not? Or would you run the risk, and by the way, I phrase that very deliberately, would you run the risk that on your watch, tomorrow morning, because you relaxed the security regulations, another 9/11 happened in, say, Chicago?
I wouldn't have
Would you be the guy that's prepared to relax them?
I wouldn't relax regulations. I would put resources where they belong and make it better by using profiling. Profiling's used all the time.
I read an article
and
about...
what happens if the only guy that actually ends up blowing up another plane turns out to be a guy like the guy in Arizona who wants to make a point?
Profiling doesn't guarantee anything, but it does work.
Your profiling, which is very precise and very targeted, actually missed that guy because, hey, he's white and American.
But it would have missed him. It would have missed him anyway, Piers, because if people are being polite and not stopping certain people anyway. It's this phony politeness, and we're denying that something exists. And even though I know you're being very honest, but there's that asterisk people always put when they talk about Islamic extremism. What about Christians? What about this? But if you're talking about the Klan, nobody says, what about other groups? We know you're talking about a bunch of white pigs who are racist. Or when you talk about the mob, nobody talks about this one or that one. You're talking about the Russian mob, you talk about the Russians. We all know who we're addressing. But there is this phony politeness. And, hey, guys, I don't see it when we all see it. And that's the dishonesty.
Well, Britain went through a long period when I was growing up. You know, the IRA in Britain, financed a lot of the time by Americans, by the way. You know, they were blowing up a lot of people in London, my home city, and everyone grew to hate everybody Irish. And if you had an Irish accent in London for a period of 20 years, you got beaten up, and it was horrible. In the end, we went and talked to the enemy. This is not an acceptable view in America, but British politicians went and talked to Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA. They sat down with Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness, who regularly came to fundraise in New York, by the way, and they sat with them, they talked them through, they ended up releasing a lot of very bad guys, ended up promoting these people to be politicians in their own country. They actually preached freedom and democracy through killers, and in the end, guess what? We reached a place where the IRA stood down their arms, and we've had no outrages from the IRA in London, I think, in the last 15 years. This may be an unthinkable way for Americans to think, but the way to deal with the enemy sometimes is to go and sit down with them. Because we did that in England, and as a result, Irish people can I'm Irish. You can walk around London now and not be hated just because you have an Irish accent.
Fair enough, and that's a good point. Although I will say the difference is I don't think the IRA attacked commercial airliners. I think the IRA kept it...
The IRA blew up hundreds of people on the streets of London. It's all a question of degree.
But
you can multiply the numbers. The principle's the same. Wanton, extreme killers.
Fair enough.
But one
question. I'm sorry, buddy. Did they? But when they were looking for IRA members, did they stop Americans? Did they stop people who they knew were Jews from Israel? Of course they didn't. They looked for who they knew they were looking for, and that's how you also go after something. Is if you're going to target people.
Honestly, I think specific profiling, especially in terms of airliners, is an incredibly dangerous thing to be doing. I really do. I think the moment you only start frisking people you think might be Muslim fundamentalists.
No, I don't mean only.
You've got a big problem.
I don't mean only, but the primary part of it.
Where do you draw the line, though? How far do you go with it?
Common sense, and I think that again. You're never going to get it 100% because sure there are Chechens there are white people.
No, but it's easy for us to say around here. If you're the director of Homeland Security, and you absolutely want to 100% prevent another atrocity in the airways, where do you draw the line with this profiling? Who are you not going to check?
You have to check. It doesn't mean by doing profiling. I'm not saying remove other checks. I am just saying, when you get an instinct or a feeling about a guy and you see, stop pretending that you don't have that feeling. When 9/11 happened, we all knew who it was. When those London bombings happened, everybody knew what group, what religion, the profile. Everybody knew in '93 when the Trade Center was attacked who had done it. And again, there was a false one in Oklahoma. We thought it was Middle Eastern men, and we were wrong. It was McVeigh and Nichols. So I'm not saying it's 100%, but let's just stop this way we're bullshitting. We're all sitting in a room.
Well, coming back to your first point was a good one, which is that there should be no problem in political leaders like David Cameron or Barack Obama, talking specifically about Islamic fundamentalist extremists, where there is absolutely no doubt from their rhetoric that they want to kill people and kill lots of people. Where you're talking about that body of people, there should be absolutely no question. You go after them as hard as you can. But you've got to be very careful that in doing that, you don't alienate a whole population of Muslims.
I understand that. But also, I would like to see a lot more outrage from the non-extreme Muslims, people that are just practicing the religion. They don't seem to really want to call out the extremists and say, wow, that is bad what they're doing. And also the point about the IRA, there was something to sit down and hammer out with them. What they wanted. They wanted their freedoms. Now, when you have to sit with an enemy that just wants you dead because of your lifestyle, that's a little hard to find common ground.
Wait a minute. The IRA wanted British politicians dead.
Oh, they did, but
they tried to kill Margaret Thatcher and her whole government. They killed some people that day.
But that was to get what they wanted. They had an end to their means. They wanted
They actually had a political agenda. What he's saying is
Islamic fundamentalists
have an agenda. Don't have a political
agenda. They have an agenda. They have an agenda.
It's like Independence Day. What do you want?
The end of what they see as the imperialistic West, which they believe propagates, these kind of Western values that they despise. It's a similar in their heads. They believe
women,
absolutely
the way they treat women, and the way we treat women, so they look at us as infidels, and we have to pay with our lives for it. How do you bargain with that kind of fanaticism?
The answer is you have to. I saw recently interviewed Rudy Giuliani, and he'd been meeting with a fairly extreme group and got a lot of flack for it. And I looked at it as a Brit who'd been through the whole IRA thing. I thought, however unpalatable this is, actually at some point somebody has to be brave enough to do this. You have to get inside the heads of these people and try and work out some kind of future which doesn't involve every Islamic fundamentalist wanting to kill Americans. Because if you don't, they're going to carry on doing it.
Yeah.
And you're going to carry on killing them. But in the end, there has to be an end to this. You've got to try and work together. The world's a small place now. But you look at merchants of China and India and Brazil and all these countries. America won't even be the biggest economy in 20 years' time. Yeah. So the days of being the only big beast in the jungle are over. And it's interesting when I hear Americans talking badly about the Chinese, for example. The Chinese don't want to kill you. The Chinese want to do business with you. Yeah. They want to take your business, but they don't want to kill you. Yeah. The Chinese ought to be really friends of America. And Americans should work with them. Apart from anything else, they own most of you. So it's like. But I really believe that. When I went to China recently, did a documentary on them, I got no sense of them wanting to be imperialistic militarily or to invade countries or anything like that. They are business people.
No, I think they've embraced their capitalistic side,
totally,
and realize, wow, we can be a part of the world economy.
And here's the key thing: they're not very religious. The Chinese, they don't have much religious factor to their thinking, and as a result, they don't actually want to kill people. They want to kill you in business. They want to be number one. They want to be top dogs.
Yeah.
I went to big towns in China where they have 90% of the world's duvets manufactured, or 85% of the world's buttons. That's what's going on in China. They're not worried so much about the military end of things. But when I've been in America, probably out of fear, and a certain degree it happens in Britain too, there's this real kind of, the Chinese are coming, they want to take us over. They don't. They want to take over your business. And that's where America has to work out very quickly how to take on the new challenge from these countries. Because if you don't, you're going to get economically flatlined by them.
Well, they also steal stuff too. It's like the one thing they can't make with Apple is the way they make the actual one piece of the computer. But the Chinese are like, well, fuck you. You don't want to do business? We'll take it. What are you going to do? Go to China and sue the communist government?
They don't recognize international
copyright. They don't care.
I found a chateau that was being designed on the outskirts of Shanghai that was exactly the same as a chateau in Bordeaux in France, which is where my favourite wine is made. They'd flown in the top winemakers from Bordeaux, paying them vast sums of money. They had created exactly the same acreage of land. It looked exactly like this chateau in Bordeaux. They had the same climate in Shanghai pretty much as they get in northern France. And they reckon within 10 years they'll be producing wine design of a standard of the great Chateau Lafite houses or Chateau Latour, and it'll be made by French experts in the middle of China.
Maybe they can import people who drive well.
By the way, and I say, rather than saying, isn't that terrible, I say, good on them. Good on them. That's the kind of energy, drive, dynamism, and smart thinking that made America what it was. So for Americans to sit back and go, this is terrible. No, this is admirable. And actually, more Americans should stand up and say, I want to be more like... Here's the thing. I've got 3 sons. I was out with my 3 sons the other day, playing football, soccer. The real football. and I managed miraculously to score a good goal. All right, a bit of a David Beckham.
Well, how old are they? Are they like all...
17, 13, and 10.
I thought they were 4 and 6.
2, 4, and 6.
I didn't waltz past 3 2-year-olds. Get out of the way, son. But I scored this great goal. And 2 of the 3 boys instantly went, Dad, that was so Chinese. And I stopped and I went, what did you say? I thought they were being racist, and because they all go to schools with lots of Chinese kids. I said, what did you mean by that? And they both started laughing and went, "Oh, Dad, we're not being racist. We meant that was really good. It was Chinese."
No. Wow.
Now, if that isn't a moment to stop and think, if you're a Briton or an American, back in the early part of last century, that comment would have been, "You're so British." Right?
Yeah.
From the middle of the century onwards, that's so American.
Or Mighty Whitey. That was one for a long time.
But now it's, you're so Chinese.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about China, though. They sure love using our movies for their fighter plane exhibits and examples. They actually took a clip from Top Gun and said that this was their new fighter that they put out.
Really?
And this is some test footage from our new fighter, and it was frame by frame
from the movie.
Oh God,
Kelly McGillis was in it.
It was one of the
this
models.
This pretty lady,
shot.
she made play.
Yeah, they did a split screen.
She also in Accused.
They did a split screen and it matched up perfectly.
Did they really?
They got caught.
They got caught.
They're very discerning in China. I took around pictures of Barack Obama, the British Prime Minister, the Queen, David Beckham, and Simon Cowell, and they'd heard of all of them apart from Simon Cowell.
That made you feel
No
good.
one on the streets of Shanghai had ever heard of him. I love that moment. I made sure he knew immediately.
Hey, we got Brooklyn Decker down the hall, so I don't know if she could join the conversation.
I'm going to clear her mic. I'm going to get out of here so she can
look
have
at
this.
Pretty girl coming
for the
in.
lady, the pretty lady.
Pretty lady coming
Piers, you want to
in.
hang, or you got to go?
Actually, I've got to go quite. So I can give you a little bit more.
Can I ask Piers another question
Okay.
before we go?
Yeah. There's a couple more things I want to.
I'm
Just
curious.
get Brooklyn walking down the hall.
I'm curious as to how you feel, because the media in general, it's the media again, and Fox is very conservative, and other ones are very biased liberally. Where do you think the media is fairly balanced? Like, where are they balanced with this kind of like both ideologies?
This will sound completely self-serving, but it's one of the reasons I joined CNN. CNN's
Because you're a lefty?
No, but I think if you watch CNN, you don't get bombarded with partisan. And by the way, I love watching, when I'm in the right mood, partisan television, right? I love watching Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly. I like watching Keith Olbermann and Rachel Maddow. Depending on the mood I'm in, like most journalists, I switch around anyway. I think a lot of issues now sort of circumnavigate left and right anyway. So I like watching them. But do I want to actually do that myself? No, I think there's a really important position for CNN right now, which is globally, the reason that they are the most trusted name in news as their advertising goes is because they really are. They're independent, and people accuse them of being liberal. I don't see that in the programming that I watch, and I've been here a few months now watching it. They try and toe the straight line whilst expressing opinion that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be pigeonholed right or left. And it's important so that Americans have a choice. If you're in the mood for a bit of right-wing whacking, turn on Bill O'Reilly and hear him whack away, and it's hugely popular. I know whacking means something else here, doesn't it?
Yes.
I didn't mean it quite the way.
Probably a lot more fun than the way you're meaning it.
Toss off.
You have a choice. I believe in choice. I really do. I think everybody knows what they're getting when they watch Fox News. You know what you're getting when you're watching MSNBC, and you should know what you're getting when you're watching CNN. If you want to have unpartisan, unbiased reporting, put on CNN for a bit. If you're in the mood for a bit of a rough and tumble, put on the others. But my job, as I see it, is to make the independent voice of CNN more opinionated. I mean, the stuff we've been talking about today, I don't think I could be honestly positioned as left or right based on this discussion.
Right.
There will be people like Bill O'Reilly listening to it who might want to pick up some of the things I say and say, he's a lefty, and there'll be people on the left going, actually, he's a righty.
Taken out of context stuff is the best for making it look
and I don't care about that. But in the end, I've expressed what I believe to be opinions which are perfectly sound opinions, but open to debate. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. Where it strays too much into too predictable, I always know when a news story breaks exactly how MSNBC and Fox will report it. Mm-hmm. When you're that predictable, there's something wrong. News is not that predictable, and it shouldn't be. What's happening in Egypt is a classic example. Most Americans, I think, are quite confused. Is Mubarak a good or bad guy? Because he's been a great ally to America, and make no bones about it, he has been.
His people love him.
But he's a dictator to his people.
Right.
Exactly in the way, not quite as bad, but in a similar vein in recent years to Saddam Hussein. He's made himself stinking rich. He's terrorized his people through his military police. It's all intents and purposes a pretty bad guy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's protected Israel from a lot of outrage that would have come their way without Egypt's support. He's been a great ally to America, both in terms of Israel and in terms of oil and other stuff. He's been an important player on the side of America. But if you're watching, Bill O'Reilly or you're watching Rachel Maddow, you would be drawn to a certain position about him, which is probably neither is right. The middle position is pretty well right. The CNN position will be, look at this in its totality. And this guy is good and bad. And he's not very bad and he's not very good. He's kind of in the middle, like most of the Middle Eastern leaders are. And he's been useful to America and a friend to America, whilst being bad to his people.
And that is why people don't like us, too, a lot of times, because a lot of them don't like us because we do pick and choose who we're self-righteously angry at. Like, if you're a prick, but you're our prick, it's like Ahmadinejad we hate, but Saddam we loved. And, it is kind of selective.
I don't like when people get on the United States' ass.
I just wanted to say Ahmadinejad and prove I knew his name. I just wanted to sound smart.
That's all. Pronounce that correctly.
I shoehorned that in. I
wasn't expecting that on this show.
I'm a total phony. I'm a phony.
I don't like when they take what alliances we had 20, 30 years ago and criticize us now for it, because there was a time for a certain alliance. If it turned bad over the years, and this leader that we sold weapons to for years, all of a sudden we find out, he's a nasty dictator to his people, he's terrible. And they go, you supplied him. It's like it made sense during the Cold War to get into bed with some people that weren't all that good.
Well, I can name them for you. Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, Mubarak. I mean, all these people at some stages have been friends of the West.
Because they were our enemy's enemy.
Correct.
So to catch shit for that seems really odd, that people won't look at the big picture and say, we had to do that.
We have to bring Brooklyn.
Yeah, we got it.
Let's bring her in.
Absolutely.
Can we just bring her in?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a blow.
Kevin.
All right, Kevin.
Tell me about this mic.
Yes.
Red State, March 5th, Radio City Music Hall. Tickets and info, ticket info dates, coopersdell.com.
And soon to be on Piers Morgan's show on CNN.
Next week. I'm intimidated now because you're just the smartest man I've listened to speak this week, and I know it's only Monday, but still.
Yeah, exactly.
I was sitting there like my jaw was slack. I was like, I guess I'm not going to be able to use any Die Hard jokes.
Like you're the smartest guy in the Opie and Anthony room. That's not a great compliment.
Good seeing you guys.
All right, man. We'll see you soon.
Kevin, thanks, man.
Take care.
Be good.
Oh, could I be in one of your movies?
Of course.
Take it easy, man.
Wow, was that the standard answer? Or what? Hi, Brooklyn. Brooklyn Decker for the new movie. Just go with it. Piers Morgan from CNN, of course.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
And we don't know how to talk to really good-looking girls.
I do. Don't worry.
Piers, you do?
Thank God you're here.
Thank God you're here. You're going to say this
From my
interview.
point of view, we've just got rid of a fairly aesthetically challenged old man. And,
We just upgraded.
This is perfect.
Oh, damn.
We just
I've just cleared my schedule. No problem.
Yeah, Piers is sticking around now.
It is very, it is intimidating, because especially in here, we usually just have a bunch of guys talking. So when a pretty girl comes in, we're the worst.
Oh, please. I'm not the first you've seen. Won't be the last.
You're
First
probably
I've seen today, trust me.
Thank God she doesn't have a sexy voice, though.
Oh,
yeah.
No, this is sick. This is not sexy.
Do you know how sexy, sick girl voice is?
Oh, well,
It's the higher the fever, the sexier the girl
Yeah,
gets.
I love a good flu. There's nothing hotter than a flu.
Sporting about 103.5. It's nice.
Well, good,
Wow.
good.
You are very, very attractive. We were looking at some of your pictures, your swimsuit issue pictures, of course.
Wow, okay.
Where are they?
right in front
Yeah,
of you. You know how to work your computer? Piers, go ahead.
Let me do this.
How long were you modeling?
I have been modeling for 5 years. Well,
No, longer. Than that. Come on.
Yeah, I started when I was 16, and I moved to New York. Really, sorry for the voice.
No, I love it.
Don't be. We love it.
I've paid lots of money for that voice.
Yeah. It's kind of like Brenda Vaccaro, but hot. It's
I
great.
like pay for your accent. I'll try to fake the whole
Exactly.
So, yeah, I moved to New York when I was 18, and that was 5 years ago. So I've been doing it full-time since 2000.
And would you get an agency in like an hour?
No. I got scouted at a mall. You know, it's that typical story you hear by a girl.
I usually try to scout at them all till the police
I know.
take away.
It's creepy.
I got to have a card made up, even if it's not real, just to meet women at the mall. How great is that?
I'm telling you, it would work. We all fall for it. I clearly did. So I got started locally, and then got scouted in North Carolina, and which is where I grew up, and moved to New York in 2005.
And this is your first
Country
film?
girl in New York.
Yes.
Yeah, you're really good in the film. I saw it.
You did see it?
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
really good in it.
You're such a bad liar.
No, I'm serious.
Thank
No, he said that to
you.
us privately.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, it was my first movie, so keep that
Which
in
is
mind.
pretty
But
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very
He goes
much.
to all the rom-coms.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I
No, he does.
don't want that out there.
It's
Piers, I'm not a rom-com
By
guy.
the way,
I saw it
I've
for the
just
show.
seeing some breaking news. It's the worst possible news for Christina Aguilera. It was the highest ever Super Bowl rating last night. Which means the largest number of Americans in history watched her repeat a line in the national anthem.
was it 3 I was there. I just got in this morning. I was there yesterday at the game, and was it 3 words?
She sang the wrong song. It was
whole
America
line.
the Beautiful.
She repeated one whole line.
Yeah.
Because we were all singing along, and all of us, we were sort of looked at the people I was with. We all sort of looked at each other. We were like, did I mess up the words, or did we? And I know on TV, everyone clearly caught.
Yeah, they were
but-
like, ooh.
The players were looking at each other. They were like, oh,
what
boy.
the
Yeah.
It's humiliating.
I know.
They've heard the song enough times.
But you feel for her. That's nerve-wracking. I mean, come on.
Gotta be.
All those people.
It's
I'd be
quite funny,
terrified.
though, isn't it?
Yeah, we do feel
why
for
not?
her, but
This
part of
gives
us is
something to
happy.
talk about.
See, if I was a manager or someone like that, I'd say make sure you make a mistake.
Yeah,
just do something.
'cause now we're talking about
Janet
it.
Jackson,
That's true.
Christina. It may have been deliberate. It might be that we can get so much publicity out of being the one that makes a mistake.
Roseanne, when she went out there and sang horribly,
Grabbing her crotch, though.
That made a lot of news right there.
The crotch grab. We still talk about that.
So you were at the Super Bowl.
I was.
And how'd you score that one?
What do you think? Look at her.
No, we were there for the movie, but it was my 5th Super Bowl. I've been to a lot. I'm a big football fan.
Who's your team?
The Panthers.
Ooh.
I know,
Wow.
I know. Sympathy points there. 2-14 this year. Real proud. Real proud. But we have a new coach, Ron Rivera. I'm quite excited about that. But anyway, so yeah, Carolina Panther fan, but I was rooting for the Packers, so I was happy.
Yeah, I was too. Just the dirty Steelers. I don't want to see them win another one. I just don't like them.
You really
Pittsburgh
don't?
is spoiled.
You
Yeah.
really don't like them?
The Steelers, no.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
That was
It
one of the
Great
best
game to
ever.
watch.
Turned out to be as close
Very
as they said it
exciting,
would be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, tea and honey.
Were you nervous acting at all? Because I get very nervous when I act. Like, I never know what to do with my hands. I tell this to everybody who comes in.
Yes. Explain, please.
Like
Go
when
ahead.
like in talking conversationally, I know how to listen, I know how to talk. I'm gesticulating a little bit just because I know she probably thinks it's kind of hot of me to do so.
No.
But I don't know how to do it when I'm in a scene. It's like my hands just feel like these 2 rocks, and I know if I pick them up, it's just going to look stiff and
Are
Ralph
you
Cramdenish.
talking about love scenes here, or what are you talking about?
No one's ever asked me to do a love scene. I would love to. Like Shawshank Redemption kind of one I did once.
No, I interviewed Colin Firth this week. He goes up there later in the week for the King's Speech. Obviously, he's brilliant and he's going to win all the Oscars, hopefully. But I was asking him about when you do a love scene, and he's got his beautiful Italian wife. I said, what does she think when she sees you romping around with Scarlett Johansson or something? And he's really funny about it. It's like, nobody really likes it on either side. It's like, it's uncomfortable. And then I said, how would you feel, for example, if your wife then did a love scene with Brad Pitt, if she was an actress? He said, I'd hate it.
Yeah.
It's an unusual thing to have to do, isn't it? Have you done any of these?
I have. And
Who did you have to do it with?
this one was with Adam Sandler.
Is that good or bad? I can't work it out.
Oh, it was
can't
good.
work it
Well,
out.
I mean, he's great, but it is an awkward thing. My husband yelled out some profanity when we saw the private screening. He was like, "You." I don't know what I can say on the radio.
Whatever you want.
Say it.
You can
Say
say
it.
anything
He was
you
like,
want.
"You skank." But it was obviously in good. We
Well,
were
we'd
joking.
like to say goodbye to Brooklyn
I
Decker
know, sorry.
for showing up today. Thank you.
Not only husband, Andy Roddick.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but we were watching it and he yelled that out jokingly, of course. But yeah, it's never a fun thing. You kind of, you know you're going to shoot that day and you sort of tell.
How did Adam Sandler's wife feel about it?
Apparently, well, I don't know. I can't speak for her, but apparently in an interview, because he had to kiss both Jennifer Aniston and I in this movie. And apparently she's like, honey, make sure you do a good job. Put on chapstick. You want to do good for Jen. You want to do a good job. So she was encouraging him. She's like the cool wife.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't be that encouraging if she saw me jumping into bed with you, I can tell you. Very uncomfortable day at the office.
Right?
If my spouse made Adam Sandler money, I wouldn't care if she did bukkake films. You'll tolerate a lot for 20 mil of film.
Does your husband do like the uncomfortable smile, kind of like, oh, look, she's kissing another man?
No, he yells out "slut" in the theater. That's what he does. He's not concealing any feelings.
What was the first scene you shot? Like the first moment on film. What was the first scene you shot? And were you nervous? And did you blow it at all, or did you actually get through it fine?
I did okay the first day. It was the first scene I shot. We shot in chronological order, which is sort of unusual for movies. Yeah. You usually shoot everything out of order. So the first scene was actually my character meeting Adam Sandler's character for the first time. So we were still new kind of in our friendship, so we got to have that scene, and it felt kind of nice, actually, like authentic and good. But then 3 days later was the love scene, which was terrifying.
And do you actually have to be completely naked for these scenes? Or?
No, well, not this one.
How do you protect yourself from...
Well, this one, you know what it was? It was sort of like a make-out scene, and then you wake up on the beach. So it's kind of it's insinuated.
Implied, yes.
Exactly, which is good. It wasn't full-on like anything. I
beach
think that,
sex, though. Yuck.
Yeah.
Who really thinks that's good?
Who really enjoys that?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
Do
you like it?
Yeah.
Where does the sand go?
What do you Grunions?
If you on a beach, I wouldn't be thinking, where's the sand going? Trust me.
The whole week you're like, I guess it's a good exfoliation.
That's
exactly how I'd be viewing this
situation. Some places don't have to be exfoliated.
I need to have a good exfoliation.
Yes, I know.
I hope you're as honest months from now on CNN, Piers.
I will be.
You better be, because they have a way of getting to you after a while.
Don't you? CNN is nothing like people told me it was going to be.
I love your honesty.
They give us great freedom, and they want me to be opinionated. They realise that perhaps in this new cable jungle, CNN's been slightly outshouted and out-opinionated. There's no reason you can't be opinionated, but not have to fall into the trap of being right or left, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think that Network is kind of was a brilliant foreshadowing by Chayefsky? It's amazing how the news, I mean, it's not that extreme, but like, wow, he was a smart guy.
Completely. And it's Americans get their news in all sorts of different ways now. It's completely changed. Everyone gets news off their cell phones or their computers or whatever, their iPads. How you disseminate news and opinion to people is going to be very, very different. You know, CNN.com is one of the most downloaded websites in the world.
Yeah.
And they put loads of stuff on there which never gets on air, which is it's still viewed by millions of people. Mm-hmm. So how you get information to people is now going to be done in very, very different ways. But CNN has a very important role to play right now in this country. And I really believe it's an exciting time to be there, because when you watched their coverage last week from Egypt, if you wanted to find out what's really going on there without a bias from your presenter who just has an agenda anyway about this kind of thing, you had to watch CNN.
We get it. You love
that
CNN.
Yeah, he loves CNN.
He loves it. Company. My network.
Yes.
Are you a techie? Do you have your gadgets and your phones and
I mean,
computers?
I have an iPhone and a computer, but I'm not like an iPad user.
Not like a nerdy techie or nothing?
No, I'm pretty...
Do you watch CNN?
I guess it's standard. Yes, I do, actually. Yeah, I'm actually... It's funny because you guys were talking about Egypt when I walked in, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm this crazy intelligent person like you are, but it's interesting. No, but it's interesting because I actually like reading. Like during the election, I read both McCain and Obama's books, and I like reading kind of both sides. So I sort of like watching Fox, NBC, and CNN. And it's interesting to see how, for example, now we're talking politics. It's interesting to see how with Egypt you have, I was watching one channel and it was saying, because I know the Muslim Brotherhood, they met yesterday, and I was at the Super Bowl. So unfortunately, I missed it. Which is
you missed the meeting? You mean?
A bad excuse. I missed the meeting. I was invited.
If anyone could bring peace.
I missed the meeting in Egypt. But it's interesting because from one end, I think a lot of Americans sort of fear the overthrow, or technically of the government, and then then you think about it, and these people are being oppressed, and so change needs to happen. It's just. My point is that
Did you ever imagine you'd be discussing this morning on the show?
No, but I'm kind of glad that we are. I'm sort of glad that we are.
Probably sick of
side of you.
She's probably sick of talking about the movie at this point.
It's kind of nice to talk about it.
Talk about something different.
I think we're afraid of the vacuum that would be created if he just left, if Mubarak just left. And we are afraid of the Muslim Brotherhood because
But
but
you're afraid of them because of their name. When actually, anyone in Egypt will tell you the Muslim Brotherhood are actually pretty non-extreme at the moment. I mean, they may get infiltrated by extremists, but as we stand, they've been the major opposition party there for a long time. They are not that extreme. Certainly not by comparison to other countries.
I think their take on Israel might be a little extreme.
You go to someone if you want to know where the real problem for America would lie, it would be if the same kind of uprising happens in someone like Yemen, where it's a much poorer country, much more extreme country. You could end up very quickly with a kind of Afghanistan part 2 there, and any expert will tell you that. It's not. Egypt has never been the main concern. It has been for the security of Israel, and because it's been very good for America in terms of oil. But you want to have one hell of a bad situation, then wait until protests like this start happening in Yemen.
But aren't they all too like high in Yemen? What do they chew? They chew like cat or something? There's that weird drug that everybody in Yemen chews. Yeah. Really? Yes, there's this weird...
They chew cat?
I don't know if it's called... Is cat a drug? Is that the drug? Am I getting the drug name proper?
I don't know.
There's some kind of a weird...
Literally cat? What?
Yeah, there's some kind of a weird thing that they chew, which kind of acts like an opiate of some sort, and they're all high.
So you're saying all Yemenis are zombies?
All.
Okay, 98%. No, but that's a big thing. My manager's Jonathan told me. He knows everything.
All you have to understand about the Middle East right now, look at Egypt's profile now. I think it's 66% of their population are now under 30, right? But 95% of the unemployment is those 66% of under 30s, right? So you have a much better educated populace, young, educated, on the internet, seeing there's another life to be led out there in other countries.
That's what does it.
And they are not getting jobs. And when you have that kind of setup where intelligent people, well-educated, go through school, don't get a job at the end, it's a recipe for complete disaster.
I've always said, like, information is what just folds up dictatorships. It is. You watch the Soviet Union. It happened with the Soviet Union. A lot of the Eastern Bloc countries, they started seeing what was happening in the world and saying, well, it isn't quite what you were telling us. Do you see something happening like that with China? Because I know their people are really left in the dark. A large percentage
Here's the interesting thing. In China, they employ, I think, 30,000 people employed by the government when I was there to suppress the youth from using Twitter, Facebook, and so on.
Wow.
But the youth all just laugh. I took a load of them out one night, and they're all getting their phones out. They don't use Chinese proxies for the internet. They use American proxies, they use French proxies, whatever they can get their hands on. And they just circumnavigate all these government officials. They're smarter than the government. And what you're seeing in Egypt, they're smarter, they're quicker. That's why we're getting people still flashing out tweets and stuff when there's supposed to be no internet coverage. They are the young, educated people. My kids can run rings around me on internet stuff.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old hooks up. The other day I watched him. He's 10 years old. And I found him down in his little den in my house, and he's got his earphones on like this, and he's tapping away. I said, what are you doing? And he went, I'm having a war, Dad. I said, who with? He said, 5 of my friends. I said, where are they? One was in America, one was in Australia, 2 were down the road in other houses. They were all talking to each other through their earphones and playing a war game.
Yeah.
It was a proper one for their age group, like a junior war game thing. But they're in 4 different countries.
Yeah,
and they're 10 years old. Now, you're going to tell me that you're going to have some crusty old official in the government who's going to stop this guy getting information? Forget it. But the difference in China is, you're going to end up in China very, very soon, I'd say within 5 years, with 2 different populaces. Half the country of 1.3 billion will be very rich, they'll be millionaires, and the other half will be incredibly poor.
Right, now that always makes a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, but that's where, in a weird way, having a kind of totalitarian regime as they have in China, where everything is controlled centrally by quite a tough government, is almost essential. Because if you don't, and you had the kind of uprisings you've seen in Egypt and China on a 20 times bigger scale, then the world has a massive problem. So this is a very interesting ongoing debate here. The freedom of young people and the access they now get to the outer world they never used to have. Nobody in China 20 years ago would have a clue what was happening in America. No. They wouldn't have a clue. Now they know everything.
Yeah, but how do you look in a yellow bikini, Piers? Because we have Brooklyn Decker here. And holy shit, what
you're up for this, but I wouldn't mind having a little fashion show where we compare notes.
I'm finding this more interesting, I have to say. I actually continue. Please.
I have to ask a question about your name. It's obviously a great name, Brooklyn. That's your real name. You didn't.
That's real.
Are your parents like kind of like hippies? That's like a really kind of a cool name to.
Were you born in Brooklyn?
No, I live there.
Were you conceived in Brooklyn?
No, none of the above. No.
Because the Beckhams, for example, always call their kids after places they were conceived.
Oh God.
Wait,
I'd be Men's Room Norton.
Romeo, we're not sure what Romeo's all about.
Like,
They must have been watching a Shakespearean play
exactly.
at the time.
Yeah.
Well, the obvious
they were in a
question,
theater.
why Brooklyn?
I'm named after a horse. Yeah,
geez.
not good.
Wow.
My mom's best friend.
Yeah, Secretary at Decker would have sounded awful.
My mom's best friend had a horse named Brooke, and she always loved the name. So as a joke, my dad suggested Brooklyn, and they had never been to New York, so it really has nothing to do with the city. But now I live there.
It's almost like, is it two names, Brooklyn?
No, it's Brooklyn. It's
Okay.
Brooklyn Danielle Decker.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah, that's
really-
good.
Yeah.
God, how do you know? You got to know when you name a girl Brooklyn that she's got to turn out pretty.
But because she's
That would be
beautiful, it
terrible.
works.
Yeah.
No, because it's
You're not
kind
gonna
of
see
a
an ugly
cool name.
Brooklyn.
It's like
That's
it's kind
right.
of a cool name, and
Or like a sandwich shop name. Like I could be a sandwich. It sounds like a sandwich.
Brooklyn Decker for a limited
Right?
time at Subway.
I know, it sounds like a sandwich, I'm telling you.
But it works on a beautiful woman. Like if you came in and you were like, you weighed 420, people were like, come on, stop that name. You fix it.
that's a
because
Marge.
it just works for you.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to have to leg it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I hear
I've got
you. We are
I've
too,
got a
as a
show
matter
to
of
get
fact.
out.
I think we're wrapping up.
But it's been
Yeah, we
wonderful. Oh, it's at the end.
Oh,
is
we're
it?
at 10 o'clock.
Well, we didn't,
That's
I didn't know that.
What do
great.
people need to know about the movie? I saw it as I'm not a rom-com guy. I'm not going to
That's
lie to you,
fine.
but I liked it. I
It's
really
not
did like it.
necessarily a rom-com. It
There's
is,
some
but
there's
it's
some jokes in there.
yeah, it's good for guys
I liked
too
it.
to stay on their film.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we have some great guys in it. Comedian Kevin Nealon, Nick Swartzen, Adam
Kevin Nealon was
Sandler.
hilarious. He was only on for 2 minutes, I think, and he was hilarious.
But if we're,
He almost stole
we're
the
just
movie.
going to get this on DVD or something and you want to fast forward to the crucial bit, when are you on the beach?
There is a beach scene.
Right in the beginning.
You know,
And she wears a lot of bikinis and a lot of.
but I
little
play a
outfits.
school teacher. I do have clothes on for most.
I do have clothes
I do
on.
I didn't
wear
pay attention to
clothes.
those scenes.
Yeah, but no, it's actually great because Nicole Kidman and Jennifer Aniston, they wear coconut bras and have like a hula off in coconut bras. So I would
damn.
actually go for them instead
It's like
of
the
seeing
Hawaiian
the-
episode of the Brady Bunch.
Sort of.
I didn't realize
Nice.
that how hot Jennifer Aniston still was.
She's hot.
Without her clothes on.
Right? I know.
Holy shit.
I couldn't stop staring.
Really?
Yeah.
No, really. She's like she looks great. She really does.
Tell us more.
A lot of cameos, a lot of other guys in this movie.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, it's a funny film, and they wanted to make it come out the week after Super Bowl, so it would give the guys something to do, and it has really three great characters for women, which I find so unusual these days in movies to have really three strong comedic characters for women, and we have that, and I'm just it's my first film. I'm really proud of it, and yeah,
That's a good first film.
I'm yeah.
And
Could have been like a sci-fi original.
I'm telling you, I am still pinching myself. Yeah, it's really exciting.
It's like, oh, I'm in Mega Gator.
Yeah. Hey, that would have been a
Trying.
good start. That would have been a good start. I'm telling you.
That's a
I'm
good
not-
start.
I'm not one to turn up my nose to any movies, but yeah, Adam gave me a really great chance at this, and we had a really good time shooting it. So
Can you look pretty? They want to picture you on Twitter.
And Piers, when is
Oh, sure.
No, Piers, get out of this picture.
I thought you meant me.
You're on every night? CNN, you're on 5 nights a week?
Thank you.
7 nights a week.
Oh, you are 7 nights you
nice.
do it?
a
Three
week.
times a day, 7 times a
Relax.
week. 2 weeks of the year.
Piers, 2 quick questions. Who do you got this week on CNN?
We've got a big one on Wednesday, a first live show in front of
Bob
an
Kelly.
audience, Donald Trump. Donald Trump in front of an audience.
Your old boss.
Then we've got the King's Speech special with Colin Firth and Jeffrey Rush and Helena Bonham Carter, so that's a great show. And then I think it's Rod Stewart on the anchor leg back at his Beverly Hills mansion.
Oh, wow. You're going to
so
ask
it's
him
fun.
about some of his relationships?
I
Yeah.
most certainly am.
His many relationships.
I will actually ask him, I said, what is your problem with redheads and brunettes? And he said, sorry? I went, well, you've only ever married blondes. What's the matter with you? What have you got against him? And he goes into this really tortured explanation for why he has nothing against redheads and brunettes.
Oh, really?
And one other question. You and Madonna, where you at?
She's incredibly annoying and banned for life from my show.
Wow. Nice.
Why do I
happened?
want Madonna when I can have Brooklyn here?
wow.
Yeah, but wouldn't you like to hear somebody wavering in and out of a British accent? That's why I love Madonna.
No, if Madonna goes on bended knee in Times Square and begs forgiveness, I might reconsider. But currently, she and Heather Mills McCartney are on my banned list.
Well, you ain't going to get the bended knee from her.
Sorry, Brooklyn. I'm sorry you had to hear that.
We got to put it in the gutter every so
She might
often.
hold it up and wave it at you. All right.
She's laughing though. She kind of liked it.
She's a horrible woman. Good for you.
I introduced Heather Mills to Paul McCartney. That's why I have this problem with it.
No.
I actually introduced her.
Did you really?
Yeah, and Paul was like, thanks, mate. It cost me $50 million.
Shame on you.
Exactly.
Shame
That's why she has to be banned. It's my only way of getting back in with Sir Paul.
Brooklyn, you can disavow any knowledge of this interview.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm hanging on to
Don't worry
every word.
about it.
I think your people are getting a little nervous. They're
Yeah.
pointing at watches out there.
They start looking at watches going, stop it, get around.
What did
immediately.
Madonna do to you? Because didn't you try to get her on the show?
You know what it is? It's a criminal invasion of a British accent that she's now adopted.
Oh, good.
And I'm just not having it. So she has to be banned for appallingly insult to the British nation with this fake accent. That's it.
It is just the worst.
Plus, I kind of think we've got Lady Gaga now. We don't need Madonna. You know,
Yeah,
Lady Gaga's half her age. She's better looking, better talented. It's like it's moved on.
And she's definitely doing Madonna.
Exactly.
She's definitely
and
doing
she's doing it better than Madonna did.
She
updated
over. The Madonna.
Yeah.
Thing.
When you're 50, whatever she is, and you're dating a 22-year-old guy called Jesus, you've got issues you need to deal with. That seriously have to be dealt with away from the glaze of publicity.
Piers, are you worried that people aren't going to do your show because you're so open and honest?
No, I'm hoping that's why they come on.
I think more people will go on it because
you
of
think?
that. Yeah, I think everyone. I mean, just knowing how the whole press side goes, I think everyone's so politically correct.
Are you kissing
these
his
days.
ass? You want to be on the show?
I
right?
like this.
No, I would actually love to go, but no, that's not. That's not what it is. That's no, really. I think people love everyone's so politically correct. It's nice to go on to a show where, I don't know, you can be a little bit ballsier.
You want more Heather Mills jokes?
That's nice. No. Oh, look, a gentleman on the hand.
Brooklyn has just booked herself on my CNN show.
That's great. And you just got the flu.
Hey, what a way to go.
But it's so worth it, right, Piers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Way to go, boys.
Fucking line of the day. Let's get out of here.
Can I throw out one plug before we close?
Yes.
Tomorrow, I can't say what it is. A big show is going to be announced in Foxwoods in Connecticut at the end of April.
I can't afford this.
It will be a show that I did recently somewhere with 3 other comedians. I'm not going to say what it is until tomorrow.
What a mystery.
Let the intrigue build. Boo.
Piers, just so you know, every time he books a show, he loses $100,000. So,
yeah.
he's not good with the casinos right now. He's in a little bit of a rut.
Could you book some churches or something,
Yeah.
please?
He's got the self-control of Harvey Keitel and the Bad Lieutenant.
All right, so Brooklyn Decker and Just Go With It in theaters this Friday. I really did like the movie. Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston, and a lot of other people. And hopefully you come back and see us for your next movie. And Piers, you coming back?
Anytime,
I think we kind of hit it off.
I think we got on well.
I think you should come back and hang with us.
I enjoyed it very much.
All right, guys. And that's...
Yes.
You got a Twitter?
I do. I have a Twitter.
Oh, what's your address?
Brooklyn D. Decker.
I'm at Piers Morgan.
Okay.
I'll
tweet you.
Stay in touch.
Brooklyn
All right, we'll
D.
tweet.
Decker.
Brooklyn
I'm going to
D.
have to follow him.
My
Okay.
middle name, guys.
Danielle.
Okay.
Danielle.
No, people
had
make
Brooke-
reference to
no,
double D. I've had a lot of people.
Oh, Double D.
It's my middle name.
They are...
Sounds like
clarify.
sounds like Colin Firth is saying it.
Just to clarify.
Decker. A little stuttering joke. All right.
full Ds. Full Ds.
Very little.
Yes, it was it's more of a stuttering statement with no laughs.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, thanks, man.
Take care, guys.